How is y'all week going so far? We're halfway through the week. What's today? The 30th. Yesterday, Saturn stationed to go direct. So we've been feeling that energy. And Saturn rules Capricorn, and Saturn is in Capricorn. And as I was speaking on Monday, Capricorn represents our structures in our life and changing those structures. Saturn is the god of karma, the god that in the planet that deals with the lessons that you're supposed to learn. If you don't get your lessons, he's going to make you go through it. And he doesn't care how difficult it is for you. As you may have heard of Saturn return, all of us go through a Saturn return every 27 and a half to 30 years. And that's when Saturn returns to its natal position of where it was when you was born. He's coming to check to see if you learned the lessons you were supposed to learn, do the work you were supposed to be doing. And he's in his home sign of Capricorn. So he's shaking those structures. Good morning. Shaking those structures, those things that do not serve us anymore, that just don't work for us. Like, what is your structure in your life that's not working for you? What are those things that you supposed to be learning? You can look up Saturn return calculator, Jamila, to find out exactly when your Saturn return is. Mine was last year this time. My natal position is Saturn in Capricorn. So I went through it last year though. Because Saturn moves slow, he stays in a sign for a while. So you have to put in your actual birth information to see when specifically your Saturn return is. Yeah, this week does feel like it's kind of, it does seem slow. But that's what happens when you have Saturn, who's a planet that moves slow, and then Pluto is stationing this weekend. These are very slow moving planets. Like Pluto moves even slower than Saturn, but they're heavy. They're heavy, so you kind of feel the drag. You feel that energy dragging. But Pluto return is even worse than the Saturn return from what I hear. The Pluto energy deals with things that you need to annihilate, things that you have to completely get rid of. Like Saturn teaches you the lessons you're supposed to learn and stuff like that. It's difficult. If you have gone through your first Saturn return, which was between 27 and a half to 30 ages, you will remember that you probably went through some challenge or hardship. Depending on how much you avoid it, depends on how hard it is. So some people Saturn return is extremely, extremely hard because they avoided a lot of things that they didn't deal with. And some of it is not so bad because Saturn would bring lessons or blessings. But the lessons are a blessing once you learn it. But you don't want Saturn to make you deal with the lesson because he does not care how you feel about it. He knows why you need to learn a lesson. He knows what your karma is. He holds the Akashic records. So you have to deal with it. It's better to deal with it sooner than for him to come to you and deal with it. He is the father energy of the zodiac, of the planetary, zodiac. And fathers aren't the ones that have mercies. They want you to learn the lesson and get it. It's not about you being all in your feelings. It's about, if you don't get this lesson, this is going to cause major issues in your life. And then some of the things is, like I said, it's karma. You've done some things and you have to pay for it karmically. It just is what it is. You're bearing the fruit of the karma. So yeah, your Saturn return. So that means that your Saturn is in Aquarius then, Jamila. So yeah, just to give you some insight on that. So Saturn stationed yesterday, and before these big planets station, you feel them 5 days before and 5 days after. That's why last week was challenging and this week is challenging. And then Pluto stations this weekend, so you have an overlapping of feeling the effects from Saturn and the effects from Pluto. And that's why I've been talking about, go ahead and think about, focus on what it is that you need to focus on, those problems that you've been avoiding, because these planets are here, and whatever is being shook up in your life this week, whatever you're being triggered by this week, is dealing with those things. It's dealing with the things that you need to shift. Saturn, like I said, dealing with the structures in your life. What structures work and what don't work. You know, for me, my structure needs to be 100%, 90 to 100% spiritual. I do not need to function in the physical realm. Like, anytime I have any issues, good morning, any issues, I need to go to my spiritual structure. So any health issues that I have, it's not about me getting to a doctor. It's not about me going to get medication. It's about me going to my spiritual structure and fixing the issue. Any issues in relationships, any issues with my money, or not even issues, anything that I want to do, my structure needs to be a spiritual structure. Because I've just been domesticated and trained, I was doing a little of both, right? I was doing a little of both, but the reason, when I play, you release your healing power, and it really sits in my spirit really nicely. And I hear what he's saying is, I have the right to heal whatever it is that I want to heal. I have the right to choose that. I get my power from God. So yes, I live my life by going to God first, but it's still a structure that is like, okay, it's really time for me to really take this to the next level. For real. Like, all things in my life, spiritual structure, period. Spiritual structure, just period. Everything spiritual structure. If I want to manifest to create something, I go to my spiritual structure. If I want to fix something, I go to my spiritual structure. And I have all the tools and resources. I have everything that I need to do it. So I'm being made to slow down like Saturn and sit still, and I can feel the energy in my body wants to move. Like, I'm feeling a little restless because I want to do things, but I'm not supposed to be doing anything physically, because I my structure is spiritual structure, and that includes during my sleep time. I'm doing spiritual work in my sleep, during my dreams, during my travels, during my meditations. Like, I really am working spiritually and just having that shift. And I'm explaining to y'all my revelation and my understanding so that you know how to evaluate what those structures are in your life and those structures that need to shift, right? And just how they need to shift. And having those honest conversations with yourself, and you may be having honest conversations with other people too. So I'm gonna, when I have the opportunity to talk about it, we're gonna get into the book. I want to talk about it because it's major shifts, it's major energies. All the planets are back exactly where they were back in March, when everything started shutting down for COVID, which did what? It shook structures. A lot of structures changed. The school structure changed. The entertainment industry structure changed. The job structures changes. You saw structural changes happening, right? So now it's like, okay, we shook those things, but whatever else that you need to completely shift, this is where we are now, where it's like, okay, you have to completely shift the structure. Like, we know you may have done maybe 10%, maybe even 90%, but we need you at 100%. We need you here. We need all of those structures transformed. We need all those structures shifted to where they're supposed to be, because it's not working. It's not working. We've learned to cope with it, but it's not working. Those structures don't work. Good morning. So when you think about what those things were that shifted for you, back in March, what are those first structures that shook for you? For me, it was really spirituality. I had already transitioned out of my job, and I had really started bringing my spiritual gifts more to the forefront, and now it's time for me to expand it again, right? And leave my life structurally, spiritually. So that is what I'm getting from it. And just my structure of how my day go, my structure of how I work. I work in a way that I worked before. I get up early. I do certain things. I had a very structured way of working, which yielded me results. But that's not the structure that I need for spirituality. So it's time for me to shift that, right? It's time for me to shift it. So I'm just giving you some insight so that you can look at your life and look at those structures that you need to shift for yourself. The things that you know aren't working, and y'all have come a long way. Y'all are not where you were. I've come a long way. And it may feel like, okay, I got more to do. I've done all of this. I still got more to do. Like, God, we're always growing. You know what I mean? We're always growing. So for me, it doesn't negate because you have more work to do, doesn't negate the work you've already done. Because you have more work to do doesn't mean the work you've done was useless. Because you have more work to do, it doesn't take away what you've already done. So having more work to do, I want you to think about it as you continue to grow. It's no different than like if you buy a home. You may decide, I'm going to redo the floors. Okay, you redid the floors, and now it's like, hey, I want to paint the walls. So because you have more work to do in the house, it doesn't negate that you redid the floors. The floors are beautiful. The floors added to the ambiance in the house, but now I want to add more to it. So it's the same with working on yourself. So yeah, I changed a lot of stuff. Yeah, I did a lot of work, but now let's add more. Okay, let's do more. What else are we going to add to this beautiful picture of you, this beautiful sculpture of you, this beautiful person of who you are, your beautiful soul? So having more work to do doesn't negate the work you've done already. It's in addition to, okay? My spiritual masters who are well into their 60s have been doing spiritual work, and they are way advanced, and they still know that they have more work to do. It's it's growing. It's like a tree. The tree never stops growing. If it stops growing, it dies, right? So there is more pruning. There's more weed pulling. There's more things you have to do. There's more watering of yourself. It still grows. The plants, if you have plants in your home, they don't stop growing. That's their work. They continue to grow. Okay, so it doesn't negate the growth that they did to where they are. It's just you keep going. And as you expand your awareness and expand your consciousness, and when I talk about that, that's just being aware of yourself. Being aware of yourself. A lot of things are subconscious and you're not always aware. But being aware of yourself, and that's having that awareness and being honest with yourself about it. And that's what's going to happen this week. A lot of things are going to come to your awareness, and it comes to your awareness through triggers. If things are triggering you, it's triggering something in your subconscious that your conscious mind is not aware of. And you have to expand your awareness to see what it is. Why is this triggering me? Where is this coming from? Because it's letting you know what's happening. And asking yourself those questions and digging. Having those honest conversations with yourself. Have those honest, hard conversations, because if you don't start trying to work on it yourself, you're going to be forced through it, and it's not going to be pretty. And that's why I said don't get snatched by those problems. Don't get snatched by things. It's not just physical problems, but it's emotional problems. It's spiritual problems. It's things that's in your subconscious minds. It's way of doing things, way of thinking things. All of those things, those issues, deal with them. Go within yourself. What is it? And if you're doing the work, you'll realize that this week is a week of being productive and a week of expanding your awareness instead of being as hard as it can be, okay? So, yes, we all have more work to do. There's always more work to do. You know what I mean? I know I teach y'all and I share things with y'all, but I still have work to do. Same thing for my spiritual teachers. It's just they're a few steps ahead of me. I'm a few steps ahead of y'all, but y'all right behind me. We in a line. You know what I mean? As I learn, I share. And then as y'all are seeing, some of y'all said that y'all see yourselves sharing knowledge with other people. So as y'all are learning, y'all are sharing. Because there's always somebody that's one step behind you, a few steps behind you. And just because you're not way far in advance doesn't mean that you can't give to those behind you. That's going to help them get to where you are. Okay? And some people may always stay right behind you. They may catch up to you. They may go past you. Hey, everybody's journey is different. But that's the purpose of the community. That's the purpose of us speaking and talking together. So I want us to get into this book in chapter 4, because chapter 4 is about the vulnerability armor, which I think is going to be very imperative for expanding your awareness this week, because as children and as young people, we put on armor to disengage from vulnerability. Not and understand that when you're not being vulnerable, you're not connecting. You're not connecting with people. You know, just being real, being transparent, being authentic. We connect by that. You know what I mean? Y'all connect to me because of that vulnerability. Y'all connect to me because of my transparency. I connect to other people because of that too. That's connection. When you're not being vulnerable, when you're not being real, if you're not being, authentic, or feeling like, putting an armor up, you can't connect. You will always be disconnected from people. You will be disconnected from yourself, most importantly, because not only you have that armor up to protect yourself, as you say, but it's false. It's to keep you disengaged. You put that armor up, and it keeps you from engaging with yourself. It keeps you from being able to see your own awareness, right? Don't get snatched by your wig. That's funny, Shalena. Your feelings with your dad's nurse. She's young and don't know any better, so I feel the need to open up to her. So I mean, yeah, having honest conversations. You're gonna have conversations with other people, with yourself, and the conversations is not bad intentions. That's not the purpose of these conversations. The conversations is, let's get real, let's get vulnerable about this. You know what I mean? Let's get into it, okay? So I want us to get into chapter 4 so that we can really understand this armor. And we're gonna read about 10 pages. I want us to understand this armor and understand it so that we can be effective this week, so that we can understand how this armor has kept us from dealing with our stuff, how this armor has kept us from feeling, so this armor has kept us from being aware. Just because you're not aware of it doesn't mean it goes away, okay? Just because you think you're ignorant of it doesn't mean it goes away. And understand that you created an armor because that's how you survive. That's how you survive throughout life, because nobody taught you how to. Nobody taught you how to be vulnerable. Nobody taught you that vulnerable doesn't equal weakness, that vulnerability equals strength. To avoid feeling is to be weak. To have the courage to feel, to have the courage to speak up about how you feel, and to connect with another person. It's strength. It takes a strong person. It takes courage. It takes courage. It takes being strong. Okay? So vulnerability is strength. It's very strong. You know what I mean? Very, very strong. There's plenty of things that I've gone through recently, and even have done in front of y'all. Y'all probably don't even notice that a few months ago I would have been completely embarrassed and vulnerable and feeling shame and beating myself up and guilty and stuff. But I've accepted that I'm a human, and I showed that I'm human. I'm not perfect. You know what I mean? I'm transparent in that. I'm transparent in that, and I know that I'm continuing to grow. So when you understand that, you'll understand the courage and the strength that it takes to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is strength. So we are going to get into this book, because this vulnerability armor is going to be very good for us to be aware of this week. Give me thumbs up when you're ready. I want us to be aware of it so that we can really deal with the stuff we need to deal with, okay? And these are old traumas, these are old things. And understand that you may not be aware of it, but dealing with this energy this week, dealing with Pluto, dealing with Saturn, will make you become aware, okay? It will make you become aware. And it's not going to come out pretty if you've been avoiding it, if you haven't dealt with those things, or you haven't dealt with them in a proper way. Let's just say that. And when you come into the awareness that you haven't dealt with it in a proper way, it's okay. Like I said, it doesn't negate the work that you've done. It's just continuous work. It's just like when you're growing a plant and you're just like, oh, maybe I need to do this with this plant. Let me add this to it because I didn't realize this is what was happening. So let me just make these tweaks. Just think of yourself as that. You continue to become more aware and you make tweaks. And when you make tweaks, it doesn't negate what you've done. Because there's also the energy of feeling like, dang, I still have work to do, or am I the only one that has to do work? And it doesn't matter. As long as you're doing your work, you're going to continue to grow. It doesn't matter what anybody else is doing because they have to be held accountable by Saturn themselves. And it's not any of our business. Okay? So, all right, chapter 4, I'm going to go ahead and play it. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow. I'm saying wow just because, she talks about a common shield of forbidding joy. Like, she is always on the money. She's did research on this stuff for over 10 years. And she said that she didn't realize that joy was going to come up as a vulnerability place. And it's true. It's true. And the thing is I'm thankful because I'm aware of having those experiences. And I didn't realize personally how far I've come with those experiences. I'm not going to say that I'm 1,000% there, but I've come a long way. I know what she's talking about, that joy, and then just getting scared something's going to happen to them. And I'm thankful for God just because I gave a lot of those worries and those thoughts and stuff to God. I also, I don't watch these TV shows, the news, CSI, NCIS, Law and Order, Bones, and any crime show. I stopped watching all of that stuff. They snapped. I realized years ago, this is good to do the mystery stuff, but this is tragedy things. This is tragic stuff. So I'm thankful that I cut that out of my life because they're laughing in the car and she has an image of an overturned car. I remember going through that. I remember in Atlanta we had a really bad ice storm. Snowstorm, and I remember my dad being stuck on a bus for hours. I remember hearing stories of people being stuck on a highway, and a mother was I think somebody went into labor in the car. And I used to have those kind of thoughts when my children was babies. I used to get nervous about natural disasters. I used to be like, okay, well, what am I gonna do if I know a tornado comes? What would I do if I'm in the car and something happens in the car and I can't, and my kids don't have the food because they were babies? It was crazy. I used to obsess about it, and I'm so thankful that I've come away from that. But it's something that parents experience. You used to be that person always living in fear. I was so miserable. I wouldn't allow my niece to do things because I thought things would happen. I would wear that shield hard. And Brittany, you said you've been there too. Now you desire freedom like to breathe. Jamila, I was obsessed with NCIS and Bones. Very mindful of what I put around me now. Yeah, because that stuff is feeding your subconscious mind. It's in your subconscious mind. And now I'm noticing that with my sons, being in the house and they get on YouTube and there's certain things, and I've had to do some releasement meditations with my sons because they had to learn though. They had to learn themselves because I've told them to not watch certain things, and I told them about the spiritual implications of that. Just the spirits that are on certain shows, those things being implanted in your subconscious mind. She's talking about those images just from the basic scientific way, but the reality of it is those spirits are being implanted in your mind. They're being implanted in your head, those energies. So I had to go through a whole process with my son with releasing that, releasing those things. So she says, my hope is that a peek inside the armory will help us to look inside of ourselves, okay? So here are some of the questions that I think are good for y'all to just kind of ask yourself this week. How do you protect yourself? When and how do we start using these defense mechanisms? What would it take to make us put the armory away? That's some really deep stuff. Rachelle said, I noticed recently how those thoughts are just popping up out of nowhere, but I just follow up with affirmations. So it's disturbing and completely disrupts your flow. Brittany, my kids have been emotional, very, very emotional. Well, your kids are picking up on the loss of their father. You have to also understand the energetic tie. A lot of times people only talk about how the mothers are connected to the baby because the mother carried the baby. But the father DNA and connection and spiritual energy is inside of a child too. The child is connected to the mother and the father, and those children have just lost their father. They may not can verbalize it, but they can feel it. They can feel it. My son has been a bit emotional too, but we've been in this pandemic for 6 months. You know what I mean? These structures are being changed for 6 months and things have shifted. It takes 66 to 90 days to create a new neural path in the brain. This way of living has become a new neural path. And I couldn't help but think, as she talks about how we wear the mask, how we wear the armory, and to think of our time where we go around wearing masks. And I hear some people, like my neighbor says, I don't like this mask thing. I can't see people's face. I can't see their smiles. And then you have some people that do like the mask because they can hide themselves. You can't see them, right? You can't see them. So it's very interesting. Very, 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 very interesting. So, Rachelle, when you notice, if you have the releasement meditation, you need to do releasement meditation on those thoughts. Continue to do the affirmations and continue to push through them, but don't negate that they're in the subconscious mind. And that's what the releasement does. It releases it from the subconscious mind, right? So you're doing a phenomenal job by not acting out on those thoughts, but you have to get those seeds out of your mind. So use the releasement meditation and go through that process and release those things that are popping up in your mind, especially the ones that are coming up frequently. You knew your dad was dying before they let you know you was sick as well. I heard somebody tell me a story last night, and it was heavy. You know what I mean? I had the whole space, for him, but he talked about the details of finding his father dead, and his father was foaming at the mouth, and he just said he felt it. He was like, I went on a little day trip and I called, he wasn't answering. Then I called again and he was like, although I was with my friends, I wasn't really there because I was connected to my father and I knew something wasn't right. So he said when he got back home, he found him dead on the couch and he had foamed at the mouth. And he had to notify his mom, who was in a different country, notify all the family. He's like, I never had to make so many hard phone calls back to back. And he just talked about how he didn't sleep for a whole week. And, of course, his mom is in a different country and she's breaking down to hear her husband had died, and just, just the details of that. And I just was like, wow, you know what I mean? I think just with this armor that we wear, these masks that we wear, we don't allow ourselves that vulnerability to grieve, or allow ourselves to that vulnerability to feel devastated or disappointed or have that hurt. And that's part of the process. It's part of the human experience, right? So just allow yourself to feel. And, he also talked about how he became a functioning alcoholic after that because he never allowed himself to grieve. So that was how he coped. That was his armor. And we all wear armor. That's why, she asked these questions. How do we protect ourselves? When and how do we start using these defense mechanisms? What would it take to make us put the armor away? Okay? Put the armor away. So just, Brittany, with your children and with yourself even, like, that's a lot. You know what I'm saying? That's why I bring up daily to ask everybody to pray for you and your family. Pray for Rochelle's family. And anybody else that by the way, Ade lost another one of her aunts. I saw that last night. She's lost 3 aunts within the last 9 months. So, just honoring that. You know what I mean? That's why I was like, I need to get into this book about the vulnerability armor, because this week we have to honor those things. We have to honor those structures. This is a structure too. Is this vulnerability structure working? That's a structure that needs to be changed. How do we protect ourselves? Is it a legitimate way of protection, or is it a defense mechanism? What is our defense mechanism? What would it take to make us put that away? Okay? What would it take to make us put that away? Those are the things that we do when we don't want to deal with our problems. When we're not dealing with the stuff we're supposed to be dealing with, we have this vulnerability armor on, right? Yes, definitely get to that, Rachel. Yes, I'm glad that the Patreon is your best friend, and Miracle Prayer is amazing. The Miracle Prayer is amazing. I just gotta say, it's amazing. It's very magical, and it's free. It's very powerful. The more I learn, the more I expand in my spirituality, the more I'm understanding the power of the Miracle Prayer. It's very, very, very powerful. You've been doing the best to be strong for your kids, but you can't help but break down and cry sometimes. That's the thing. That's your armor. That's your defense mechanism. How's that structure working for you? Ask yourself these questions. How are you protecting yourselves or protecting your kids? They have to feel. You have to deal with that. Is that vulnerability armor, is that structure working for you? How and when did we start using these defense mechanisms? Right? My overworking was a defense mechanism that it was a habit that I created. That the overworking, that workaholic defense mechanism is actually a manipulative tactic. If you read into manipulation, manipulators tend to be workaholics. A manipulator is somebody that tries to second-handedly change a situation. Well, manipulation is based off what? Fear. That workaholic attitude came into me because of fear of me not having, fear that I may not survive, fear that I may not be able to take care of myself. In reality, I had to shift that structure and rely on my spirituality. It's not about the workaholic. It's not about how much work I put in. It's not about overworking and taxing my body, right? It's about me going to my spiritual foundation. That's the structure. That fear structure doesn't work for me anymore. And I'm becoming more and more, I've come a long way, but it's still more awareness that I have. That's why I have this feeling of restlessness. I need to work, or I'm supposed to be working, but it's that work is based off fear. It's based off of a fear, right? It's based off the fear that if I don't do this, then I won't get this. I'm trying to manipulate the fear. I'm trying to manipulate the situation, right? And that's coming from fear. Let me go back. I'm going to read what y'all are saying. But I'm going to read this little story she said. One of the first stories I heard was from a woman in her late 40s. I used to take every good thing and imagine the worst possible disaster, she told her. I would literally picture the worst case scenario and try to control all of the outcomes. When my daughter got into college of her dreams, I just knew something bad would happen if she moved too far away. That's her trying to control. I spent the entire summer before she left trying to convince her to go to a local school, trying to control. It crushed her confidence and took the fun out of our last summer together. It was a painful lesson. Now I'll cross my fingers, stay grateful, pray, and try like hell to push the bad images out of my head. Unfortunately, I've passed that way of thinking down to my daughter. She's increasingly afraid to try new things, especially when her life is going well. She says she doesn't want to tempt faith. Okay? So that right there, that was that workaholic tendency. That was the things. I was trying to control all the outcomes. I was trying to avoid feeling disappointed. That was my vulnerability armor. And that was a program that I ran. You know what I mean? And I've toned it down, but in August, it hit me good. I said, okay, this program has to stop. I'm going to stop it. I'm going to stop it. And I'm stopping that program because that program is based off fear. Although it's great to have good work ethic, but I was a workaholic, okay? That is something that I had to come to terms to. But that was my vulnerability armor. That is the armor that I put up to say, okay, just in case something doesn't go the right way. I did it when I had a job. I did it working for myself. I did it all that stuff when it's based off fear that I won't be able to take care of myself, fear that I won't be able to provide for my children. When I need to annihilate that fear and start letting that run its course, which is what I've been doing, right? So let me go and run this back what y'all was saying. Yes, you've been doing the best to be strong for your kids. Yes, it's just you're human. And it's okay to cry. I posted Yana Vincent's post yesterday that you release 38 toxics with each tear that you're crying. When you cry, you release toxic from the body. Yes, miracle prayer is very powerful. Continue to listen to that. It's very powerful. Y'all hear me speak the miracle prayer before we pray. I speak it after we pray. I speak it randomly throughout the day. Memorizing it is very, very powerful. Then you don't have to rely on a tool, right? It creates miracles. I remember the first time playing it for a week, how I got a job, and it's very good to work on memorizing that prayer. It's very powerful. There's spiritual baths. I can create holy water from speaking the miracle prayer over spring water. I can create major things from speaking the miracle prayer. I can create a lot of stuff from it. So you can do the same thing. So, if you want to push yourself really to the next level and have one of those strong tools with you, memorize that miracle prayer. Yes, one day at a time. That's all you have to do, Brittany. One day at a time. One day at a time. It's so hard for you to cry. It's a programming, just like it was a programming for me to be a workaholic. It's a programming. There's subconscious connection to crying equal weakness, and crying, I promise you start releasing those toxins, you're going to release a lot of things. That's your mother. Even though you're 28 years old, she just don't let it go. She loves to try to control you, but you understand that her control is based off fear, Anika. That's her armory. You heard her say that 90% of parents have those bad images running through their mind about their children, right? Your mom has passed it down to both you and your sister. You see it in your sisters more now that you're doing the work to remove that black magic, right? She likes to control everyone and everything around her. Yes, it's based off fear. People that want to control is based off fear. It's fear. You had issues too, but now you're letting go to control things. Just know that you only know what you've been around. So if you grew up in a place where that's what you saw, you only did what you saw, and she's probably only doing what she saw. You challenge yourself to push through the fear because it was passed down to you. Yes, and it's okay to be a crybaby. Nothing's wrong with that. You haven't worked a job since February. Wow. I know it's Toya. I've gotten used to seeing you on your son's page. So Yes, Brittany, you can. You speak the miracle prayer over this. You have to speak it. Don't play it. The miracle prayer over spring water 10 times for that abortion ritual. So Instagram is giving me the countdown, and I want to be able to save this. I'm going to start another live so we can finish talking about this book, diving into this vulnerability armor, so we can really make this week a productive week for what it is that we need to learn, okay? I'm about to start the next live. This week, I feel like I got a handle on this week a little better because I'm being strategic and use the tools. That's good. You know why you feel amazing is because you've been doing the work, Sybil. So there's no structure to shake. I'm just talking in general because most people aren't doing all of the work. Most people are putting up this vulnerability armor. So whatever it is that needs to continue to be shook this week will be shook. So, if you're feeling amazing, that you've been doing the work. You know what I mean? You've been doing the work. You've probably been having situations and you know how to navigate those situations because of the things that you've been doing. So make sure you do give credit where credit's due, and those of you that still have some things to shift, give credit where credit. Like I said, it doesn't negate the work you've done. There's just more that needs to be done. And as the book says, it scares you. Like, I'm happy, singing, dancing. And when you say, no, don't, that's where, see, there we go. So there it is for you, Sybil. That is your structure right there, the awareness right there. It doesn't have to be big, right? So you're happy, singing, and dancing. Be in that moment. Don't put on the vulnerability armor just because I'm talking about what's going on in the planets. I'm telling you that structures are going to be shook. But if your structure ain't being shook, then what does that let you know, right? My structure is not necessarily being shook to the gills because I've been aware. You know what I mean? I'm understanding. I'm seeing it. I'm peeping it. I feel this little slight restlessness, and I'm like, okay, I know what that is, right? You've been doing the work. So yeah, don't allow what I'm saying to make you put up the armor. So that's the lesson in it for you, Sybil. That's the lesson in it for you in terms of the structure. You spoke about it. You was like, that's me. You know, this too good to be true. So that's in your awareness. Those questions. How do we protect ourselves? That's how do you protect yourself? You're like, hold on. So understand that that's a protection mechanism. Doesn't mean that you have to engage in that. So when and how did we start using these these defense mechanisms, right? So let's just say, you know, your structure does get shaken on a Friday and not today. Don't let it take your joy from now. Let me go back to the story with the guy, to the man. Let me see. Where was he saying? A man in his early 60s told me, I used to think the best way to go through life was to expect it happen. You were prepared. And if it didn't happen, you were pleasantly surprised. Then I was in a car accident and my wife was killed. Needless to say, expecting the worst didn't prepare him at all. And worse, I still grieve for all those wonderful moments we shared and that I didn't fully enjoy. My commitment to her is to fully enjoy every moment now. I just wish she was here now that I know how to do that. Okay, so that story right there is for you, Sybil. Right there. Fully enjoy the moment. If you're happy, dancing and singing, enjoy it. Just because I'm bringing up something as a form of awareness, don't put on that armor. Don't put on that armor to be like, well, let me brace myself. No. Allow yourself to be. Don't put that defects. Don't put it up. Because then you're going to take away the joy that you're experiencing. That's the structure that you need to shift right there. There it is. It don't have to be a traumatic thing because you've been doing the work. There it is. You become aware that's the structure. So let me continue to be joyful. Let me continue to stay in this space. I'm not going to put on this armor. I'm not going to put on the defense mechanism. That's the structure that you shifted right there. You just had a feeling like, well, maybe I'm too no, because the others be shaking and I'm sitting here like, okay. That you got it. You got it, Sybil. You got it. You got it. You got it. You got it. So that's it right there. That's why I said, utilize this. How am I protecting myself? When and how did I start using defensive mechanisms? What would it take for me to put that armor away? That's a major question. What would it take for you to put the armor away? What would it take for you to be vulnerable and just put the armor away? Okay. So she says in the first chapter, I talked about enough as the opposite of scarcity. Being enough is the opposite of scarcity. Scarcity is based off fear. As an economist, economists study how humans make decisions based off scarce resources. So let me rephrase with that. As an economist studies how people make decisions based off fear. Right? That's interesting, right? And economics is definitely something that I like a lot. I really do like it a lot, but I'm also very spiritual. So it's interesting to see the duality in that. See, okay, this is how you function in the physical realm in scarcity, but in the spiritual realm, there's no such thing as scarcity. Everything's abundant. I think I froze. Okay, there we go. I froze for a second. So, being enough is opposite of scarcity. And the properties of scarcity is shame, comparison, and disengagement. Okay, and to not be vulnerable is being disengaged. You can't connect to people if you're not being vulnerable. There's no true connection. There's no true connection, because what connects us is putting the armor down. If you have the armor up, if you have these things up, you can't connect, not even to yourself, right? You can't even be honest with yourself. Well, it appears that believing that we are enough is a way out of armor. It gives us the permission to take off the mask and the armor. When you start believing I'm enough. When you know you're enough, then you don't have that fear of showing up and be yourself. When you know you're enough, you don't have the fear of, okay, if I break down and cry about a situation, I'm enough. Me not crying doesn't not make me enough. You know what I mean? Oh, I made a mistake. I'm still enough. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's when you know that you're enough, you know you're enough despite your experiences. You know you're enough despite your emotions. You know you're enough despite the ways of thinking that you're shifting. You know that you're enough. And exposing those part of yourselves doesn't take away from you. The vulnerability in the armor is because you're trying to hide yourself because you feel like that something's wrong with you and that you're not enough. And that's false thinking. You are enough exactly the way you are. Right? With the sense of enough comes an embrace of worthiness, boundaries, and engagement. This layer at the core of every strategy illuminated by the research participants for freeing themselves for the armor. The first thing is, I am enough. That is worthiness versus shame. Instead of living in shame, like, oh, I'm ashamed that I cried and broke down in front of my kids. Oh, I'm ashamed that I couldn't get out of bed for 3 days. Okay, you are still enough. You are still a great person. You're still a great mother. Just because you was going through a grieving process or something and your kids had to witness it and you couldn't get yourself up doesn't make you a less than person. It doesn't make you still worthy. You're still enough, right? You was engaging in where you were at the time. You were feeling, you were allowing yourself to engage in yourself and connect with yourself and what was happening. Because somebody has to come and support you through the process doesn't mean that you're not worthy. Because you need to ask for help or speak about how you feel about a situation doesn't mean you're not enough or not worthy. Or I've had enough. That's boundaries versus one-upping and comparison. I've had enough of that. Setting your boundary. And how somebody else takes it is not your responsibility. I'm not saying be rude. I'm not saying be mean. But you have to be able to set your boundary. You have to be able to be honest with yourself and show up. So, I've had enough. Setting the boundaries. I've become very good at setting my boundaries and speaking about it. And it's not to say another person is bad because I have to set a boundary. I have to set a boundary so that the person knows that it's there. And if I don't communicate it, how else are they supposed to know? And I'm not communicating it to them as a matter of fact or in a rude way. I'm just saying, hey, I'm saying it. This is the boundary. You know what I mean? This is the boundary. Now, the last thing, showing up, taking risks, and letting myself be seen is enough. Me showing up, going ahead and taking a risk, letting myself be seen is enough. Okay, I tried this out. I took a risk. This is cool. I don't like it no more. All right, moving on. I took a risk, tried it out. Okay, this is cool. I took a risk that didn't work. Okay, it didn't work. It was the risk. And allow yourself being seen. You're still enough, even though you took a risk, despite somebody else's skeptic mindset or them living in fear and whatever. You took a risk. If the risk didn't, that's why it's called a risk. Because you're seeing, you're trying it out. Either it works or it don't work. They don't need to be shamed because it didn't turn out the way you optimistically hoped it to be. You still enough. You still a person who you are. You just was a person that acted in spite of fear. You're a person that tried something else instead of just hiding and doing nothing, right? So it takes courage to do that. It takes courage to show up. It takes courage to take a risk. And it takes courage to let yourself be seen. And you're still enough, even if it don't turn out the way it's supposed to turn out, right? So, I want y'all to also go through this stuff where it says, I've heard over and over descriptions of people trying on the kind of armor before finally letting it go. So she has two good fill in the blanks. My first instinct or my first reaction is to, blah, 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 blah. How do you normally react to stuff when you're in a place where you need to be vulnerable? Because my first reaction, my first instinct is to. But that never worked, right? It never worked. So now I do what? What do you do differently? And that has changed my life. Now I show up and let myself be seen. And understanding when you have the courage to speak on your emotions, when you have the courage to speak on your truth, when you have the courage to show up and be seen, when you have the courage to do it, when somebody else doesn't react a certain way, their reaction is because their lack of courage. It has nothing to do with you. So don't base your courageousness off of reactions of other people. And then you get to learn from the situation. Now you get to learn, okay, is this a person that can this person handle it? And if they can't handle it, they can't handle it. If they can't handle it, you understand why. Because they're dealing with their own shame. They're dealing with their own vulnerability, and they don't want to be vulnerable. You being vulnerable is triggering them having to be vulnerable. So you're like, okay, I know that I know, first of all, there should be a connection. I know what that looks like because I was doing that. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone too. And I would have reacted a certain way too. Not taking it personal, right? I spent years doing what? Until one day I decided to try what's the new thing. And it made whatever situation better, right? So these are the types of things that you should be asking yourself and going through. Especially if you're being triggered. If you're not being triggered, don't think too much into it. And a trigger don't have to be extreme. It could be something subtle. But as you expand your awareness, you'll become more mindful of it. As you sit still, you become more mindful of it. It's like a pond. If a pond is calm and still and a pebble taps the pond, even if it's a very soft tap, the pond begins to ripple, right? The water responds to it. That's how it is with your energy and your space and your awareness. You'll be able to notice small things. It doesn't have to be a whole boulder falling in the water for you to recognize the trigger. It's just something that may need to come to your awareness. And as you become aware, you investigate it. Connect with yourself. There's 3 forms of shielding that she's going to introduce us to. And that's including the for body and joy, perfectionism, and numbing. Those are the 3 things that people do to shield themselves. Those are the 3 things that do things. You know, it's very powerful that she said, that the author said, the only reason we listen to you is because you're just as bad at being open as we are. If you didn't wrestle with being vulnerable, we wouldn't trust you one bit. If she was trying to show up and be perfect and have this perfectionism, that's not being transparent. That's not connecting. That's disconnecting you. You're disconnecting from people. You connect by people by showing up. Who are you? You're a person that has struggled with vulnerability in this way. We've all dealt with shame and vulnerability in a way, in some form of fashion, right? Show up as I'm talking to y'all. I'm talking to y'all about what I go through. I was one of those people that I used to mask my pain, or I would mask my numbing. I would numb by attempting to be positive all the time. It's a difference. So don't interpret that as in if I'm truly happy and positive that I'm numbing. Don't interpret it that way. But to falsely try to shift yourself out of emotion, like, okay, I'm not gonna. Sometimes I've talked to y'all about it. I've talked to y'all about y'all visiting, releasing, and then shifting into a new pattern. Not suppressing it, okay? And I don't want y'all to get confused. I don't want you to get confused about that. But I used to be that person because I was like, okay, I want to change my vibration. But I can't shift my vibration if I don't get rid of the seed. I have to get rid of that seed that's in my subconscious mind. I have to get rid of that core element that's causing me to have these random negative thoughts come. These neural pathways. Like, I'm breaking the neural pathway and the seed of being a workaholic. So there's a part of me that's uncomfortable, but I know it's uncomfortable because it doesn't want to change. It is what it is. Now that's when I continue to push through. But I'm aware of it. Don't go and try to push stuff away that you're not completely aware of why it's coming up, where it's happening, what you need to release, or whatever. Okay? So that's that. I know we didn't read about numbing, but I'm talking to y'all about it because I'm not talking to y'all from a place of not going through it. I'm not talking to y'all from that place at all. I've been through it. I've been through the emotional pain. I've had times where I would cry. I had times where fear was controlling me. I've been through that. And I'm more aware before it gets in control. I'm in control. So through these things, it has expanded my awareness, and I'm realizing it. I'm realizing where attempting to get, be in control. And I'm evaluating it, taking the seed out, and then I'm replanting what it is I want to go in that place, okay? So what I was reading is she said she was shocked to hear people say they were at their most vulnerable when standing over their children while they were sleeping, acknowledging how much they love their husband or their wife, knowing how good I've got it, knowing that you're blessed, right? Loving your job. Wow. They felt vulnerable for loving their job. Why? Because everybody hates their job. Now, I want y'all to think about how this goes against the grain of law of attraction, right? How it goes against the grain of gratitude, right? But it's just the programming, right? Spending time with your parents, which is, that you feel vulnerable spending time with your parents. Wow. Watching your parents with your children. And these are the situations where people are experiencing joy, and they get so much joy, it's like, oh my God, it's too good to be true. Thinking about your relationship with your boyfriend. Wow. Getting engaged. Going into remission. Having a baby. Being happy. That one's for you right there, Sybil. Falling in love. Wow. That also goes back to Louise Hay when she told that story about that woman who healed her vision, and she's like, oh my God, it's too good to be true. And she wouldn't accept it, and she went right back to what she created was losing her vision again. Right? So it's uncomfortable. But vulnerability doesn't mean you're weak. It's uncomfortable. But vulnerability is courageous. It's courageous for you to show up and just watch your kids and be like, I just love them so much, and leaving it at that. It's courageous to say, I love your husband or your wife so much, and leaving it at that. It's courageous to know how good you got it. It's courageous to love your job and love what you do. It's courageous spending time with your parents and enjoying it. It's courageous to watch the interaction between the parents and children and enjoying it. It's courageous to think about your relationship with your boyfriend or girlfriend. It's courageous to getting engaged and enjoying that feeling. It's courageous to be like, oh my God, I'm in a remission. I'm so thankful and grateful. It's courageous to have a baby. It's courageous to get promoted and enjoy it and feel it. It's courageous to be happy. It's courageous to fall in love. It's having courage and just enjoying it and letting it permeate your body. It all lines back up to when I say your cells are addicted to those lower vibrations. It's addicted to that stuff. So when you're feeling good, it's like, hold up. It's a vulnerability. You're out of your comfort zone. Yes, but allow it to permeate your body. Allow somebody to treat you well. Allow good things to come into your life, because, good things come expected and unexpected. Love comes in your life expected and unexpected. These are the things that we are affirming, right? These are the things that we've been talking about. I have an abundance of love around me. I have an abundance of joy. I have an abundance of prosperity. I have great emotions, great energy. I have everything that I need. I'm so blessed and so thankful, right? And it's interesting because after this, the next section that she's going to get into that we're going to read is called practicing gratitude. Practicing gratitude. So when you get into those uncomfortable places, go into the gratitude, right? And I'm not talking about this gratitude to suppress. I'm talking about when like Sybil, I think is the perfect example. Right now, she is full of joy and she's happy. She's happy. And then so this is the place where I'm so thankful I'm here. I'm so thankful that I'm not where I used to be. I remember having prayers where I'm like, God, I don't know if I could get through this. This is hard. I remember being there just a few weeks ago, but look at where I'm at now. God, I found the joy in my life. I found the joy in myself, and I'm thankful. Just adding the gratitude. Or even if it is challenging, I'm so grateful and thankful that I'm allowing myself to show up and be me. I'm so thankful and grateful that I'm not fighting this. I don't care if you're doing the gratitude while you're crying. I'm so thankful and grateful that I'm not trying to be strong and not hide myself no more. I'm so thankful and grateful now. I'm becoming aware of what these triggers are doing to me. I'm having much gratitude. Much gratitude. Much gratitude, right? I'm really getting into this feeling. I'm getting into the vibe. It's all coming together. It's good stuff, right? And that's how we sustain the vulnerability. You know, I'm thankful and blessed that in the middle of a pandemic, God gave me an upgrade. In the middle of a pandemic where people are struggling, I'm blessed. I am happy God has met every single one of my needs of myself and my children. And that I don't have to be a workaholic, and that I don't have to be in fear. I don't have to be doing something every minute and second of the day to show that I'm worthy or enough. To show that I did the work, so this is the result I should get. No. That's the armor. And that's the armor that I'm no longer deciding that I want to put on. That's the armor that ended me in the hospital multiple times. That is the armor that's allowed me to let dis-ease come into my body. That's the armor that's allowed attaching spirits to come because they see the fear, they sniff it out, they know it, right? No longer wearing that armor. I'm thankful and grateful that I get to rest and be present with my children and be present in the moment and still be blessed immensely. Be in a home that's 2,200 square feet. Have people come to my home. Have a vehicle that works without a car note. Have a safe place, not just in my home, but energetically I'm safe. I'm protected. I'm protected spiritually. To come across knowledge, to have a community of people that I get together with almost daily and talk about these things and give thanksgiving. Have family that love and appreciate me, and I love and appreciate them. There's just so much things, right? There's so much things. I'm not going to feel bad or allow myself to not relish in this joy because I'm not going through things. I see people complaining like crazy, and I'm like, my life has been amazing since we've been in this pandemic. The last 6 months, I am the happiest I've been as an adult. I am thankful. I'm blessed. I am completely opposite of a lot of those other stories. And just because somebody else is going through it don't mean I'm gonna go through it. Just because that's their story don't mean it's gonna be my story. You know, and I'm not going to allow that story to be in my head. I'm not going to allow these things to strip me from enjoying the joy and enjoying this, right? I'm thankful. We've been doing work, all of us. We've been working together as a community, right? So we're thankful. We're grateful. We have much gratitude. We have shifted. We've done a lot of work, and yes, there's more work to do, but we're doing it with gratitude. We're doing it with thanksgiving. We're blessed. We're happy. We have joy in our heart. We have joy because we have the tools. So even though I realize that this is my vulnerability armor and this is the mask that I wear, guess what? I have a tool that's going to assist me with it. I have a tool that's going to help me with it, right? I have that, and it works for me. It's happening. It's happening, right? It's happening. So blessed, so thankful, so grateful. It's an amazing experience. It's an amazing place. It's an amazing feeling. You know, just relishing in that joy. Don't allow waiting for the next shoe to drop, as she say. You know, allow yourself to feel it. Okay? Don't allow those gremlins to come in your mind. When we spend our lives, knowingly or unknowingly, pushing away vulnerability, we can't hold space open for the uncertainty. We can't hold space open for the risk. We can't hold space open for the emotional exposure of joy. You can't. Because then, yes, something may come up and you may switch emotions, but you shouldn't deprive yourself of the joy just because your emotions shifted somewhere else. Okay, that, to me, I'm going to put this in perspective. That's like me saying, I'm not going to take no shower because I'm going to go right back outside and get dirty again. So that's you saying to yourself, I'm not going to be joy because something might happen that I'm not going to be joyous again. So I'm just going to stay dirty. I ain't going to clean my body because when I go outside or when I do stuff, I'm going to get dirty again. I'm not going to do spiritual cleanses because, when I go out and do things around certain people environments, I'm going to get spiritually dirty again. Or, I'm not going to clean this dish because, why clean it for it to get dirty again? That is the same concept when you think, oh, I'm not going to be joyous because of something might happen, or this may happen, or that may happen. Right? That's not the mindset. That's not what we want to do. That's not allowing yourself to be vulnerable to truly feel joy. When you put on that armor, like I told y'all, when y'all put that block around your heart, that's the armor too. You think you're giving love, but you're not fully allowing yourself to give love because the armor's there. You can't put out and you're not letting love come in. The armor don't work one way. It don't work like, oh, okay, I can have the armor. I'm not going to let you love me, but I can love you. No, that love that you give is still limited too. The love that you give to yourself, the love that you give to those around you is limited. The emotional connection to yourself, the emotional connection to those around you is limited. The connection to joy, the connection to happiness is limited. Enjoy it and feel it in the moment. Yes, something may shift. Go through that, feel that in a moment, and then you can go back to joy or whatever else you choose. Whatever else you choose. That's just when we spend our lives knowingly or unknowingly, keywords, whether we know it or not, pushing away vulnerability. We can't hold space open for uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure of joy. So that means we can have uncertainty and we can unexpectedly receive joy. We can take a risk with joy and experience the joy. We can have emotional exposure to joy. It's a 50-50 period. But when you put on the armor, you cut that 50-50 down more to not experiencing it at all. At all. So it says, forbidden joy is a method of minimizing vulnerability. It's best understood as a continuum that runs from rehearsing tragedy to what I call perpetual disappointment. Some of us, like the woman in that story, scramble to the biggest worst case scenario when joy rears its vulnerability head, while others never even see joy, preferring to stay in an unmoving state of perpetual disappointment. Wow. It's easier to live disappointed than it is to feel disappointment. That doesn't even make sense. It feels more vulnerable to dip in and out of disappointment than just set up camp there. You sacrifice joy, but you suffer less pain. No, you're suffering pain continuously when you don't let yourself feel joy. You can dip in and out of joy, right? You can dip in and out. But when you are constantly setting yourself up for the disappointment, when you stay in that disappointment cesspool, you never experienced joy at all. You completely took it off the table as an option. So I asked you what was wrong with me the other day because I was happy, and I said I love life and I'm so excited to be alive. She looked at me like you was on crack and asked you if you was smoking crack. Hey, that's what I'm talking about in the midst of this pandemic. There's so many people that's miserable. There's so many triggers and things that's going on with them, and it's okay to be triggered. It's there to make you aware. You become aware and you do something about it, right? But sometimes you get triggered and you don't want to do anything about it. You want to sit in misery, and then you look at everybody else and something's wrong with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, something's wrong with you because you're not here. Nah. Not at all. Not at all. Exactly. They don't know you no more, Sybil. They don't know you. And that's okay. That's you changing, that's you shifting, that's you growing. And that's a good thing. That's a good sign. That's a good sign. That's a really good sign. Right? So, this is good. You know what I mean? This is good. I'm going to put both of these on YouTube. Like I said, I put the stuff on YouTube. Today is September 30th. It's the last day of September. Tomorrow I'm going to announce the winners. Winner of the $100 Amazon gift card. Okay. I'm going to do it on live. So I'm going to do it on the morning live. Okay. So you don't have to be present to win. So everybody that's purchased anything and you still have a chance to put yourself back in the running today. Like I said, today's the last day for my special for my readings for 10% off. The price is already adjusted. So you can just go and set up the reading. So yeah, put yourself in a drawing for the $100 Amazon gift card. It's going to be an electronic gift card. I'll email it to the winner, which I have everybody's email that's purchased something from me, at least that purchase a service or a product from me. So it's September, you know what I mean? October is about to start. I'm just going to keep expanding on a good vibration and a good vibe. I don't even know what October is going to hold for me yet. I'm going to decide it tomorrow when October starts. But today in September, as I go through this last day of September, it's the month of blessings. Being a blessing, receive a blessing, surround yourself with blessings, whether it's a blessing of your time, blessings of your money, blessing of your energy, whatever it may be. Okay, whatever it may be. Tomorrow's also the full moon. Okay, tomorrow's also the full moon. So if you are a Patreon member, you know I have some rituals in there for you to do for the full moon. Okay, you gave away some boots that you loved, and it felt good to give it away to her. It made her happy, and it was enough. That's good. That's why, you know, being a blessing feels good. Receiving a blessing feels good too. Yes, God has blessed all of us. I'm with you. Yes, you happy because life is good. There's no complaints. I'm blessed. I'm thankful. You know, I was telling my story last night. Like, wow, you know what I'm saying? I don't like to talk too much about where I've been because I don't want to dwell there. But sometimes I go back and it just brings gratitude again. Like, man, I went through some things. You know what I mean? I went through some things and I'm not there. And I am blessed and I'm thankful and grateful. I'm not diseased. I'm not sick. I'm not stressed. I'm not overweight. You know what I mean? I was spraining my ankle. I was in the hospital. I'm not living in a sunroom. You know what I mean? I had my truck and my kids' toys and clothes and our clothes. You know what I mean? I'm blessed. Like we have things. The couch that I'm sitting on, I didn't have this couch before. You know what I mean? Just blessed. When I was packing to move here, I had so much stuff to pack, and I was blessed because I had nothing 2 years ago. I started over. And I'm not saying I have nothing to not say I wasn't grateful for what I did have. I didn't have what I have today. You know what I mean? I'm just so blessed. So blessed. So blessed, so blessed, so blessed. Yeah, Brittany, write the question in the Patreon on the post about that ritual so that I can answer it there in case somebody else has that that question. And yes, and y'all know about the prosperity vitamins, so if you need more, you need to go ahead and do it tomorrow on the full moon. So also, like I said, I'm going to put this video on YouTube, but because it's 2 videos, I'm going to have to do some editing because I don't want the book reading on there. Like I said, I respect the creator. I respect Brene Brown and what she does because I have to pay for the Audible. That's a paid thing, so I'm not going to run it on YouTube free because I'm respecting her as a content creator and the gifts that God blessed her with to share, and she should be blessed immensely for it. So I'm going to do a little editing with it, so it may not be up there right away. But go on YouTube. I have some of the old lives. I'm going to probably go through some of the old lives and see which ones I'm going to put up. So if we need to go back and listen to stuff, you can go back and listen to it because I have a good portion of the lives saved. I just got to go through them and stuff. So that's something I'm going to do. Run those back. All right? So I want y'all to have a beautiful and amazing day. I love you all dearly. I appreciate you all for being here. You can do it. Go back and watch the video. You can do the prosperity. I'm not getting on live and doing it again. So yeah, that's the video still in Patreon. Y'all have access to it if y'all want to go through it again, and y'all can do it. That's why I did it then. It takes a lot of energy when I be getting on live, y'all. I love y'all, but I can't be. That's why I record this stuff and post it. I'm gonna I have more ideas of things that'll come to pass, and we'll do some other videos. But it's a lot of energy to come and be present and do this. I love it, but I have to be mindful. I have to be mindful. So tomorrow, run it through. It's on Patreon. So run it through so that y'all can see it. Watch the video where we went through and we cut everything, and it was a vibe, okay? And if y'all have questions, ask the questions on the post so that I can answer there. Okay. Yeah. Yes. And don't forget to put your input too. If you have content that you want me to create, make sure you put your input on that post for suggestions, because I look through it and I write it down, and when I put next week's content out, I'm gonna put out what y'all put there. Okay? So have an amazing day. Have a beautiful day. I love you all dearly. I really appreciate you all being here. I enjoy this journey that we're going on together. I really, 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 really do enjoy it, and I love connecting with y'all. I do. So y'all have a beautiful day, and I'm gonna see y'all in the morning. So tomorrow we're gonna do the drawing. It's gonna be exciting. Have a great day, y'all. Bye.